It's going to seem like a long-ish video, maybe. I'm not exactly sure how long it'll end up being, but we're going to go over as much of the game as possible. That way, so here's the deal. If you end up understanding everything in this video, you're already going to be playing at either my level or high level. Like, it's not that difficult. Yes, it'll take a little bit of time to get used to it, but once you understand basically everything I'm going to mention here, you'll be fine. So as a beginner coming into it, trust me, it doesn't take as long as learning other games. I'd say learning a character in this game is going to be... So if it takes 10 minutes to learn a character in Mortal Kombat 11, it'll take 5 minutes to learn a character here, whereas compared to like Tekken, you're looking at like 2 hours to get an idea, and then you have to think setups and all the other... We're not doing that. This is not a difficult game. So, for starters, before we even get into the training area, I want to go ahead and mention characters and character difficulty. The game, for whatever reason, will tell you, like this character, for instance, this character is hard, that's medium, this is hard, medium, easy, da-da-da. None of it matters. It's all a lie, just don't even listen to it. Yes, there will be some characters that are harder than others, but none of them are actually hard to learn or use, other than the current standout is Shinobi. Shinobi is not good right now. So if you're trying to start with Shinobi, Shinobi is not very good right now. He's in a very bad spot, and they're looking to, they're doing testing grounds, they're looking to change him. So keep in mind, check the date when this was posted. For all you know, something has been updated since then. But at the time of recording this, he is still very low tier. He can be used by very high level players, but they normally are going to be using him in, like up against medium level players, like your typical player. They're not going to be using him at high level because he has no options. So be very cautious. The only other thing I would say to look for when you're looking into a character is their perks, their feats, and executions. So when it comes to a 4v4 Dominion, for instance, executions actually do play a role. So for instance, Kyoshin here doesn't really have any fast executions. Yes, you can get your health, but he wipes off the blade before he puts it away, and then you can move. It's too many instances where if the enemies wanted to, in the middle of you executing, they all could turn, and then if they're coordinated, get a huge amount of damage in on you. Whereas if you think about a character like Raider, he has a Headhunter, I think is the execution. Very fast. Warden has a 2-slice, bash them, they hit the ground. It's over. PK, bend them over, slice the head off, done. Execution's over. Characters with fast executions automatically get their health. I mean, even if you only get a small amount of health because it's a fast execution, that's more health than you had at the start of the fight. So do keep in mind when playing 4v4 modes, you do at least want one execution that will be faster. This will just help you in a scenario where if you do go for the execution, you want it to be faster because there's an enemy either closing the distance or it's a team fight. A lot of the times you don't want to always go for the execution in a team fight because it makes you an easy target and they can, knock you out of it. So do think before going for some of your executions. Alright, now that we have Warden here, Warden is a very easy character. He's a very strong character. He's also known for having 50-50 styles. So for instance, his heavy finisher is unblockable. Obviously, you can feint it, meaning that sometimes he can let it fly, other times he'll bait out a parry, something like that. But the main 50-50, the actual 50-50, because there are ways to stop the heavy attack, and we'll get into that in just a bit. The main 50-50 is when he does, like a light attack, right? Or he goes into bash, he hits you with the heavy, he goes into his bash, zone, goes into bash. When he goes for his bash, and I'll give you a general rule afterward, he has access to level 1, which guarantees his light attacks every time he lands the level 1. A slightly charged one is considered level 2. This will catch people if, for instance, they dodge right away and you aren't going to fully charge it. So if he goes for a level 1 bash, I can dodge it, but the level 2 will hit you. That's mainly what I'm talking about here. There is, if you time it correctly, a time that you can dodge level 1 and level 3, but not level 2. Now, the level 3 is a full charge bash, which guarantees a top heavy for 27 damage. It also, if you notice, will gain armor when he steps forward, meaning if someone were to dodge my light attack, right? Or if they dodge my level 1 bash and then they go to punish me, I will armor through and I'll be able to hit them. Or if they go for like a dodge attack or a dodge guard break, something like that, you'll be able to punish them for trying to go for one of their attacks. That's a basic 50-50. Now, it becomes even harder when you're up against wardens that have practiced and taken time into it. It used to be where he would move forward during the bash and then he could feint it. They have, for the most part, taken that out. But if you do fully charge, as you can see, if you were about to dodge at that timing, or let's say you're going to dodge at level 2 timing, I can still feint it and go for something. Another one that works wonders is a level 2 into a heavy. People will try to dodge the level 2, but they'll eat the heavy because they think it's their turn to punish. So you're never truly safe. If you go for a dodge, for all you know, he'll guard break you. And the main reason that this works so well for a character like Warden is if he punishes you with this, feints into this, hits you with this, now you're right back into the 50-50. Okay? That's why it's very, very good. Now, because the armor, this is the general basic rule when fighting a character that has a 50-50, like Warden, Warmonger has it, Centurion has it, they all have chargeable bashes. A thing that I use against many Wardens is most Wardens, if you do the bash, lights into bash, if you look here, look at my stamina bar, that's almost half. If I went for another bash, which, let's see, it's 15 damage per, right? So we get 15 damage, bash, 15 damage, bash, 15 damage. We're almost out of stamina. So that would end up being about 45 damage, right? If we compare that to, let's say, my opponent's out of stamina, you toss him to the side, you go for a pretty basic punish, right? So if you toss your enemy to the side, you go for a basic punish, light attack into unblockable. We're looking at 44 damage. So, but that doesn't require your entire stamina bar, right? That's the big thing. Now, the reason I point out the stamina requirement is most Wardens aren't just going to keep throwing their level 1 bash. They're going to try to mix you up so they can get the charged heavy, because that guarantees this, and then you can start your mind games. Or if they get a full charge bash, they can go into this, into another bash. You know, they can mess with you. They can start screwing around with you. The main way to stop this is if you see them start to go for it and you just throw out a light real quick. If you throw out a light, it'll stop a level 2 and a level 3 because he won't get armor fast enough. It will not stop a level 1, so you're basically shutting down 2 options for 1 option. Now, if the Warden realizes you're doing this and he starts being, you know, aggressive and he's just like throwing these, right? There is another way to stop it, and it'll be the same way for some of the other characters like Warmonger and stuff like that. So if they go for the... Okay, I guess he was going to full charge that. If he goes for the bash... Oh, so it's variable timing is what he's going to do. Okay. You're guaranteed the guard break. I don't know if that's the same way for Warmonger, but I know this works for Warden and Centurion. Centurion will be stunned for a second, you can get a light attack, or you can go for a guard break. That's how you mainly want to deal with 50-50 characters. Warden feels very strong to new players. He felt very strong when the game first released, which he was. But after you learn him a little bit, he's not actually insanely strong as many people originally think him to be. So moving on, we're going to go ahead and talk about feints, soft feints, and then soft feint throws and stuff like that. And for that, I'm going to choose Kensei because he's the perfect character that kind of does it all. Alright, So just going into basic rules for the game, we're going to get into feinting, which can only be done for heavy attacks. You cannot feint a light attack, although you used to be able to with Conquer. And we'll get into soft feinting as well, which Kensei here can do. Now, the way this is performed, and I've had a lot of people ask me how to do his soft feints correctly on my Kensei guide, which I originally mistook as, everyone knows how to do this. So we'll go ahead and mention this. If I were to do light attack and then a top heavy, right? If I do light attack, top heavy, and then I click to go right, and I just spam left heavy, left heavy, left heavy, left heavy, it'll soft feint into it. The other thing you can do is on his unblockable, if you just click guard break, it'll feint out of it and go for the guard break. Additionally, if you go for the top, you can do the same soft feint into a heavy attack, or you could go for the same soft feint into a light attack. And remember, this goes to any direction. It's not that you have to go left, you have to go right, you have to do anything like that. No, this is going to be any direction for him. And that's how the soft feints work. Additionally, you're not going to be using this a ton, but it's a good thing to keep in mind. If you grab an opponent and you throw them, it does do a small amount of stamina damage, so if your opponent has almost no stamina damage, you can technically run them out of stamina. It's just you're never really going to use that a lot. A lot of Kensei people will go for this kind of thing. They'll make you guess whether or not he's going to let the unblockable fly, or if he's going to go for a guard break, something like that. This can oftentimes be beaten by a dodge attack. Though keep in mind, if you go for a dodge attack, it will beat the guard break and it will beat the top unblockable. But if he does a soft feint into like his side heavy, the side heavy will hit you, and that's 32 damage. So you will be eating quite a bit of damage. The other character that has this is Aramusha, and I can explain his. I know I've been asked a couple times about him, so we can switch to him in just one moment. But the other thing I wanted to point out is knowing when to feint. So Kensei, his top heavy, because he has options coming out of it, like his bash, which is just clicking the guard break button when you're letting it go up. You can soft feint, and it's a guaranteed light attack. If you do a side heavy, you'll feint it much faster. And with some characters, you see, I can delay my attacks. So you can either do this and, he swings fast and he swings. Or you can wait a moment. And the reason you'd want to delay it is so it's a slightly different time. So maybe your opponent won't think you're going to throw another one and they start to swing. So you'll hit them before they can hit you. This works extremely well on Warden, delaying his heavies. But the main reason I want to mention this as well is if you are delaying your heavies well and you're making your opponent guess, this allows you to get like a quick one in and then start your pressure again, because it's just another mind game. You're just playing with them, trying to get them to figure you out. But we can do soft feints with Aramusha because his are slightly different and his are very strong, and I have been asked a couple times on Xbox to help some people with it, so let's go ahead and talk about Aramusha's soft feint. Alright, so Aramusha has some slightly different soft feints. If you look at his move list, you know he can go something like this. Every other light attack will have to be from the top stance, right? He has the same thing when it comes to heavy attacks. You can just keep him flying, right? But if you were to throw a light from this direction and then you go for the heavy finisher, right? Now we know how to soft feint. If you go to a different direction, either top or right, doesn't matter which, he can actually soft feint into like a top, and then you click it again, and then you can click it again, and you can just keep switching which direction you want to come from. Obviously you'll bounce if it's from a particular direction, but this is a blender effect. And what he's doing is preparing you, basically. So if he's doing something like this, and you just keep being like, man, he just keeps hitting me with these lights, and then he lets this fly, but you think, oh, I'm going for a light parry, or I'm going to block a light. and then all of a sudden you mess up, he's then hitting you for 31 damage and possibly getting an execution. The other thing he can do is a bash now. So he can soft feint, he can go for another guard break if he thinks you're going to go for a parry. I mean, Aramusha can kind of just go into whatever he wants. And at any point he can just feint and like go for one of his dodge attacks. The dodge attacks aren't anything crazy. The other one you'll see a lot is the zone into a light, into more of his soft feints. And then he can do this kind of combination where he switches which one it is, similar to Berserker, where he can go light into heavy. And then at any point, if he wants to do that heavy finisher, he can soft feint him again. So do keep that in mind. And that's the other version of soft feint. Aramusha uses soft feints a lot. And it can be very pressuring when we go into it. But that's really all I have to say about feinting and soft feinting. The only exception to this will be Conqueror. You cannot feint with Conqueror. You must use All Guard as his feint button. Now keep in mind, it's the same timing. You can choose to stay in the All Guard, or you can just go into it very quickly to feint your attack, and then go immediately back into your defense. But he's the only exception. So if you go for a heavy attack, you have to click into to go into All Guard to feint. Alright, next up, I wanted to just real quick talk about armor and unblockables and undodgeables. Now, it's difficult to talk about these, so I'm going to try to choose a character that has as many of them as we can that'll be useful to us. So when we start talking about an undodgeable, the first one that comes to my mind is Warmonger's dodge forward heavy that is feintable. A lot of Warmongers use it to close the gap, and they can either let it fly and you can't dodge it, or they feint it and they start providing their pressure. If you see them do it, my general rule is to attack. To attack. If you have a character with an armored attack, use that. But for our purposes where we want to talk about armored attacks, unblockables, and undodgeables, look no further than Yorm. I mean, he does have all of them, so we're gonna use it. So, first up, armor. You mainly want to use armor to trade. So, if your opponent goes for an attack, you're obviously going to want to trade with them, right? Raider is a good example of this, and as you can see there, I was able to stop Warden's chains. It's just a matter of guessing when to swing and seeing if you can interrupt your opponent. That's really all armor has to do. Like I said, Raider has armor on his second and third heavy attack, so you can either let them fly, feint them, or go for a guard break, or you can, use the armor. You can use it to trade damage or try to finish off your opponent by betting your life against theirs. Next up is going to be unblockables. Now, Yorm is a special case where his actually will wall splat, allowing him to continue his pressure. But general rule with unblockables, you either have to dodge or parry them. The main thing you're going to run into when playing For Honor is someone that throws an unblockable and then goes for, pressure. They're going to feint it. They're going to go for, whatever. They're going to go into just this, and then this, and then they're going to go for a guard break, and then they're going to do this, and they're going to feint that, and they're going to, do all kinds of stuff, right? Now, Jormungandr, if you think, oh, I'm just going to dodge it, right? If that's what your thought process is when you see the unblockable, which I admit to doing this, when I just don't feel like having to try hard or anything, I'll just dodge it, right? But you need to be careful for the guard break. But if my character has a dodge attack, just like Kensei, I can just do a dodge attack, right? Get out of jail free. Wrong. Jormungandr does have an undodgeable, which is a light attack as his finisher. Which means if you go for a dodge, obviously it's undodgeable, so you can't get away from him. Now, I do want to go ahead and take this moment real quick to point out that any light attack that you get hit by, so if Yorm does this to you, and he finishes his attack string with a light attack, which that's all he can do. He can't go into anything else. So once you are hit by a light, they are negative on frames. So fighting games, stuff like that, they're negative. So if you go for a light and they go for a light, yours will hit first. So keep that in mind. If he does this light, challenge him. It's your turn. But be cautious in higher levels. They know it's your turn, and they'll go for a parry. Or they'll go for a dodge because they know it's your turn. Now, additionally, if a character has 2 lights, like Orochi, say he does light. If he does his first light, you can dodge the second light attack. Technically, it's a tight window, and I always get caught, but technically you can dodge the second light. Additionally, heavy attacks are plus on block. So if you get hit by a light or a heavy attack, right, he's plus, which means if he hits you and then goes for a light attack, it's his turn, not yours. You can still challenge because, you know, knowing that it's plus frame, sometimes I'll throw a heavy into another heavy because I know it's plus. But if you throw a light, yeah, you'll catch me. I'm just hoping people are respecting my advantage. Continuing with the unblockables and undodgeables, most people just use them as bait or trying to force their opponent to do something. The armor, you can obviously dodge. It's just made to go through someone's an attack. Unblockables, you can dodge or parry. And the undodgeables, all you can really do is block or parry them. Characters with light attack undodgeables can be quite annoying at times, but I'm just trying to give you guys a general gist of the game. So going up next, we'll talk about characters with all guard stances. So we have Valk, Kong, Kyoshin, Warlord, Musha. I'm not sure which one I should truly cover, but I think we'll go into Conk because he has one of the stronger all guards. Alright, so I went to Conquer because we just talked about feinting and stuff like that before our undodgeables. Now, like I said, Conk has a strong all guard because at any of his feints, he goes into his all guard. Now, you can do it quickly, like during a feint. Now, for most all guards, if they go into the all guard, you can guard break them out of it. They cannot counter guard break while in all guard. Conqueror he can't get out of it, but if he does something like this, don't go for the guard break because he recovers too quickly, so you won't be able to get one there. And a lot of the times, if you go for one, he can still hit you out of it, or he could go for a zone or a dodge. You know, he can fuck with you, right? Now, while in all guard, he can dodge backward out of it. He can dodge forward into a bash. He could, just move straight up to you. He can kind of do whatever he wants, and Conk will end up leading into our next topic. Now, Conqueror is a special case when it comes to his zone attack. As you can see, it is completely guarded. It will do low amounts of damage, though. If I get him to the wall, you'll be able to see the damage real quick. Yeah, it only does 8 damage on his zone, but as you can see, he's fully protected from all sides. So it is a very strong zone, and I can talk zone option select later. But for the most part, right now, what we're talking about is you would need to guard break him. If a Conqueror's just sitting here doing this to you, guard break him. Or, if you want to bait him, dodge up to him, see what he does. If he dodges and is going to go for a bash, then you can dodge that and punish him. So if you got someone that's just sitting here doing one of these things, you can either try to bait him or go for the guard break. Now, the reason Conks is good, obviously, is if he goes into it, he's guaranteed a heavy attack, which is unblockable. Most people aren't going to be able to stop the follow-up light, and if they do, it'll just be blocked. So that's almost 33 damage, for the most part, guaranteed. Or he can start going into a mix-up where, he can go back into stance or whatever. So, for instance, if he hit something like this and then... See, I was able to go into all guard twice. If I do a heavy, feint my heavy. Oh, they swung, got him. He can use it similarly to that, and that's how you'll end up using his his stance is to pressure people and force them to think and force them to guess what's going to happen next. The other thing he does have, I wasn't really sure where to put this, but real quick while we have him, we'll talk about parries. Parrying in general in this game, if you parry a heavy attack, you're guaranteed a light. Technically, you can get a zone, but it requires a lot more stamina, and it's only maybe going to do 2 more damage, so it's not really worth it. Now, if we go for lights, did I put it on? All right, yeah, I did. Whoops. Calm yourself. So as you can see, if you get a light parry, you're guaranteed a heavy attack. Going for a light parry isn't always the best because you do at least need to react fast enough to it. And that, just takes time and effort or being able to read your opponent. So if you have a conqueror, for instance, that always goes to the right, like, for instance, if I did my all guard and I do the top heavy and I always go for a top light immediately after, you can guess he's going to go for a top light, which comes into reading your opponent. And but if you do get a light parry, you are guaranteed a heavy. All right, so we'll put this in the parry category because I really don't know where else I can put it. But Conqueror can, let's say, charge this up and go in the same direction. If you go in the same direction as your opponent's attack, you can trade with him, which that's just charging a heavy attack. He can also technically do it from a normal heavy. If you swing a heavy in the same direction as the opponent before a parry timing, it will go through as a heavy attack. So basically, if you swing at light parry timing, it'll go through. As you can see, I'm parrying it because I'm too slow. But if you're fast enough, if you go for light parry timing and it's actually a heavy, you'll get it. And this, as far as I can tell, is strictly for Conqueror. The other thing that we can mention while we're in the parry category is that there are such a thing as crushing counters, which we can show in just a moment. All right, so while we're on the topic of parries and defensive play, there will be characters, like I mentioned just now, that have crushing counter moves. What this means is if they attack, like Warden has a top light attack that does this, Kyoshin can do this from all directions. Valkyrie can do this from all directions. Black Prior, Warlord can do it from all directions. So you just need to figure out which characters and which directions you can do this on. Basically, Highlander's a big one because he can go right into his stance from it. What this means is you have superior block ability. Warden gets a lot more out of this than Valkyrie will. So Warden's is strictly a top. He can't do it from the left or the right. Now the reason for this is if you get the crushing counter for Warden, it does good damage. He's also guaranteed a light immediately after that, and then an immediate mix-up where you can go into a heavy, you can go into a bash, you can go into whatever you want. Now, you'll see a lot of Wardens doing that. It used to be hard to know and all that crap when the game first came out, but now everyone knows if you get a crushing counter, immediately go for a light and then into your mix-up, which is very good damage off a crushing counter. The next thing that needs to be mentioned while we're still on the topic of defense are deflects. Now, deflect is when you dodge into your opponent's attack. Some characters are known for this. If you dodge into it, they all have different inputs. Valkyrie's is a heavy attack. What this essentially means is, as you can see, it'll bounce on her shield. Some characters get like a across their blade or something like that, where you can see it. Gladiator, for instance, will spark his shield when he goes across, and Orochi will spark his blade as he goes across. But if you get a deflect, you are guaranteed whatever your deflect is. Valkyrie has a shoulder pin, which does bleed damage. Gladiator skewers them for like 30-something bleed damage, and Orochi can go for a light attack. I think they're going... He has a heavy attack, but I think they're going to be removing that soon. But it's as simple as dodging into the opponent's attack. That's as simple as it is. Obviously, don't be too predictable. The reason is if you're constantly dodging at your opponent's attack, right? What's stopping them from just feigning and then grabbing you? I mean, you're dodging. Now that's a guaranteed heavy for them, and then they can go into anything they want. So don't do it too often. The last thing we're going to talk about for defense is going to be a little bit weird, I guess, for a new player. We're going to go over just a very basic idea of option select, and that's going to be the zone option select. Now keep in mind, as I mentioned at the beginning of this video, they are slowly phasing out option select, so this may not be in the game later on, but I'm sure you can look up if those changes ever go through. It was in the testing grounds, but they haven't fully done it yet. Now, to do an option select, if your opponent, let's say, throws a heavy at me, right? So what I'll do is I'll put my guard in whatever direction he is throwing the attack from. But instead of hitting parry, I will hit zone. I'll hit to do a zone attack. And the reason for this is if... I don't know if I can tell him to do it or not. I cannot. Alright, so the reason for this is if they throw the heavy, it will parry. As you just saw, I was hitting zone, but I was getting the parry. If they feint it at any point, the zone will come out and you can hit them with the zone. Orochi is very good at this. Warden's very good at this because Warden will lead straight into the bash, into his mix-ups and all that kind of stuff. So when you go for that, you're either going to hit them if they go for a guard break, or you're going to parry it. Now, the one downside to this is if you do go for it, it's pretty easy to time. I don't know if I can get it right off of his, but I can try. As you can see, it'll do a lot of stamina to you. But additionally, if you know your opponent is going to go for it, as you can see, it is punishable. So yes, I can deflect it, but I can't parry it for some reason. But basically, what you want to do is not be using it every single time, because if, for instance, if I were playing against you and I see every single time I feint, you go for that zone, you go for the zone, you go for the zone, right? Well, then I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to parry your zone, or I'll deflect your zone. You don't want to be too predictable with it, because it is a good defensive move, and it'll get you right through low ranks, but I guess there are no real ranks, but you get it. If you're playing in lower level, it's very effective because a lot of people don't know how it works really well and stuff like that. But that covers the basics. Now we're going to get into just very simple things. The next topic I'm going to cover is a relatively short one, and this is don't get flustered. I know For Honor flustered me for the longest time. Things would just piss me off when I played it. And yes, it can still happen. And when you play that 200 ping guy that's jumping between 200 and 600 ping, yeah, it's fucking annoying. And it's just bad. But you need to be able to read your opponent. You need to figure out their tendencies. You need to figure out what they're doing. Because even so, someone like me that's trying to mix things up, not everyone is thinking, you know, okay, I've let this fly like this many times. And you'll see when I am relaxed in a video or something, and I'll do, oh, I hit him with a heavy, I'll go for a top light. And then when they parry my top light because I did it again, because they read me, I instantly am like, oh, I'll light from the same side. Then they parry me again because they're like, oh, well, he's not going to go top again because I just parried it. So he's probably going to go that. And they can read you and then read you again. So you don't want to do the same thing over and over again, but like, there's times where if I know someone's going for stuff like that, I'll even do something like throw a heavy and they'll go for the light parry, and then they're like, oh, something like that. Or you could just like do a double feint just to get, you want them to be unsure. You don't want them to be able to read you well, but you want to try to read your opponent well. It's annoying, I know. But the next one on the list I can't really do with a bot because the bot isn't going to fuck up, are they? Is whiff punish. Can you swing at me? As you can see, you want to know your character's distance, and you want to try to be at the perfect range that you can punish the opponent if they do a mistake. This is much easier in a real match. The bot isn't going to throw it unless they're in range, which is highly unfortunate. But when I play certain characters, I know my range. Like Warden, I know the range that my zone can reach. I know the range of Shaolin's zone that I can reach. So I'll sit, sometimes if I'm at low health and I need to be defensive, I'll sit at that maximum range. So if they like try to, you know, bait me or do anything, I know I can hit them, but I try to stay out of their range. Whiff punishing is very common in most, you know, fighter type things. So I just wanted to point out, if you're trying to be more defensive and you're trying to turtle, whiff punishing is probably your safest course of attacking. Otherwise, bashes like Conquer, you can punish people by dodging and then bashing them. That's a version of a whiff punish, but that's just using a bash to guarantee damage and you not throwing attacks because you only want guaranteed damage from your bash. Conquer, by the way, since we talked about the zone option select, keep in mind, his may not do 15 damage like Valk's does here, right? But his is fully armored from all directions. So the other idea that people have, like if I went for that deflect, he would hit me. If I did this and I wanted you to throw your zone and I went for the deflect on your zone and he did his zone, right? It could hit me if he delays it or if he times it differently, or if I go for a light and then I go for a heavy or something like that, him doing that would knock me out of it because his is guarded from all directions, making it a very, very good zone option. Alright, while we're on the topic of bashes, Conqueror and Valkyrie do share one common bash where if they go for a heavy attack, they can go for a bash. If you try to dodge the heavy attack, the bash will connect, guaranteeing a light, and then you're right back where you were before. So when you see the heavy coming, you may want to wait a little bit. If you do want to dodge, you're going to have to wait until it's past the timing, because it is at the start of it that they have to do it. It is a strict timing, but general rules for someone that's abusing that is you're just going to have to guess the mix-up. You're going to have to... It's similar to the 50-50 bashes and stuff like that, which I'm not... I already did it with Warden. I'm not exactly sure where I want to put it in the video, but I'll cut that piece off and I'll put it probably right here. That way I can talk to you guys about Warden's 50-50 and give you some basic general rules that I use. Last on the docket for how to play the game, all these little symbols here, just keep in mind most things will change. Just play around with your character. There's nothing like too crazy or anything when you're learning your character. But the last thing to talk about is, unfortunately, very character-specific dodges. So we're going to talk... Tiandi's dodge is very good, but I'm going to go into JJ because I abuse the crap out of this when I play him. So we're going to talk about his Shifu stance and his regular dodge. Real quick, Griffin shares the same dodge, so if you've ever been hit by Griffins and wonder why his dodge is so good, they're very, very similar to each other. Alright, so the last thing on the docket I'm mainly including is because it is very character-specific. JJ, Griffin, and Tiandi, Jingjun, my bad, JJ is what I call them, all have this side dodge here, which will dodge a lot of attacks. So if Warden, for instance, how I mentioned he can do a heavy into a delayed heavy, his delayed heavy will still not catch this because of how far the character moves. Now JJ's heavy, or dodge heavy, can either be a heavy, or if he wants, he can actually swap it and go for a light attack, which will hit from the other side. So he does have to decide. That's really all there is to it when it comes to the dodge. It's just very good at getting out of trouble. So that's really all there is. Now, the other thing I want to talk about is mainly JJ's Shifu stance that you'll see people use where they do this kind of thing. it does gain stamina back. So if you're low on stamina, if I'm exhausted, will it? No, it'll keep me as exhausted. So let's just throw out a couple attacks. Let's just waste all of our stamina, shall we? So if you look at my stamina, look how fast it came back when I go into Shifu stance. That's what it's mainly used for. Now, him and Nobushi both have a back dodge stance, although I would argue his, personally to me, is better. And the main reason for this, if you think about playing JJ, is because I just dodge that, I dodge that, now I'm going to punish it. So now I told you whiff punish. Congrats, this whiff punishes. And you can do this to multiple characters, like, you can just dodge them. And now, I can start my offense. The other thing he can do is, during a heavy attack, he can cancel into it. But, the main thing I enjoy doing with this is dodging people's attacks. Now, this does have the backdash iframe that he can do it on anything. It doesn't need to be a heavy attack. You can do this to people's light attacks, their zones. You can technically do this to anything anyone's going to throw. You can technically do this to bashes if it's not a forward moving bash that will still hit you even when you move your distance. And obviously, even the heavy attack, so if you get hit by, if you get hit by a heavy, they do have advantage, right? You can still dodge. You can still dodge that second heavy. It doesn't matter that they have advantage. You can still dodge it. I want him to hit me. There we go. So you still get your punish. That's the other thing. That was the main thing I wanted to talk about when it comes to the Shifu stance. If you get good at it, it's very good. Now do keep in mind, if someone sees you using it a lot, they can just feint and guard break. Now, look at how far he does move back, by the way, though. So, there are times that their guard break won't hit, and you can still go for the punish because of the amount of range JJ has. Additionally, JJ, if you guys didn't know, has a stamina punisher. It has been nerfed because it was broken as hell for a while. But if you click to guard break after a parry, he will do the choke, as you can see here, that does stamina damage. Now the cool thing about this is if they run out of stamina while you do it, they will fall to the ground, guaranteeing, you know, whatever your punish is. I don't actually know his max punish, which I apologize for. I think someone told me it was a light into heavy, I think is what they told me. I don't actually know now that I'm thinking about it. Alright, so like this. Oh no, he waited a sec. So this should knock him out of stamina. And will knock him on the ground if he ran out of stamina enough. But, as I pointed out, knock him out of stamina, put him into the vortex. God, the back dodge is just so good on JJ. And I'll also show here. This dodge here. I mean, it's a good punisher. I mean, look at that. Look at that diagonal dodge just right through it. It's crazy. But that, I feel like I covered most of the basics. Please, if I missed anything or you have any questions, even if it's character specific and you're just saying, hey, I want some general tips against this character, let me know. Now, the last thing I'd like to mention before you guys log off is the fastest way to learn the game and the fastest way to get good at the game is to play as many of the characters as possible. The reason for that is once you have played all the characters, you know the general rules of how they play, you get a good understanding. Like, I've played I've played every character, not almost, I have played every single character for at least 2 reps, just so I know how to fight against them. And then when they get changed or for testing grounds, I'll play them again, and I'll work on them. The only one I didn't do was Zanhu, and that's because I felt like I had a pretty good grasp on him, just playing him the 1 rep. But even Jormungandr, I have technically 5, almost 6 reps on him, but I know his max punish if you knock someone out of stamina, and you knock him to the ground. If you dodge to the side, do a light attack. The heavy attack, the unblockable, does knock people down when they're out of stamina, but they don't. When they get up, they don't have time to parry it, so it'll hit them with the heavy, knocking them on the ground, and then you do the hammer slam. You're guaranteed a lot of damage, much more than just doing the hammer slam. So I highly encourage, the last piece of advice here is to play every character, try to get to know them. It won't help in every matchup, it won't help with everything, but it'll help with some things. Like, my reaction time isn't great, so Nobushi, if she just spams lights, I'm always going to get slapped. I mean, her lights are good, and if people just use those, I'm going to get slapped. So, but those are my general beginner tips. The main issue that I'm worried about when making this is I have been playing the game since its beta. So if you do have any questions, or if you feel I missed something and you want me to explain it better, please let me know down below, and I will fix that. If it's something really simple, I can respond or just text chat it, or just I'll leave a comment letting you know if it's just a small question. But if you want me to do like a character specific, what's this, or if you say, hey, what's, how should I use armor in whatever situation, like unblockable, if you have like a very particular question, I can make a small, 2-3 minute tutorial on that specific thing if you need me to. Or if you want me to make a particular, I have questions about this character, can you make a detailed guide or something like that? I made just beginner guides a while ago. They're probably outdated at this point, but they covered the basic rules when playing, Blink character, right? So if you want me to do a more detailed guide on whatever character you are picking up, or if you want me to give you any tips on any particular characters that you might be having trouble with, let me know down below and I can help out the best I can. Keep in mind, I do play mainly on console. I do have it on PC. I find PC very easy to react to everything. Console, I still struggle just doing a light parry if it's just like a base light. Now, if it's a feint into a light, it's a little more predictable if I have a read. But on PC, if you watched my Kyoshin, first time using him was on PC, and I was just getting crush encounters left and right. I was eating more heavies than lights, which sucked, but let me know down below if you have any more questions, and I hope this helps. I'm going to have to figure out how I want to edit all these together and where I want to put them in the video, but I hope this helps, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching.